The Best Way to Explain It, Episode 2. To The Best Way to Explain It, the podcast where one of the hosts has trouble handling lots of sugar and the other's a diabetic.
Heyo.
Breckan, how's it going?
At least I'm not the first one. I eat protein all day, man.
Yeah, but that's not sugar.
Yeah.
I have trouble with sugar.
I'm the diabetic. I'm the fun one.
Oh. Yeah. I feel bad for you and your children.
Well, it skips.
That don't exist. Yeah.
Or maybe they
really?
do. Hello, Jackie.
What?
Nah, it's a joke. It's a...
Yeah, I know, but I think it went over my head.
It's a joke between me and people who aren't even on this podcast, so that's awkward.
Why would you do that?
I really don't know, man.
Well, you're the worst.
Yeah, well.
Gosh. Why don't you start a podcast with them?
'Cause I like your beautiful face more.
Oh, okay, well, now I'm blushing. And
again, another good reason that we don't have a video podcast. Yeah.
This is true, because I would be flushed and would require more makeup.
Yeah, you also wear makeup. So
there it is.
It's out. Secret's out. Yeah.
Yeah, put on makeup before these things.
You started out by introducing me as the diabetic. That's so interesting.
Yeah. Well, they don't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, no. Cat's out of the bag. He actually is the diabetic. And I just get really amped up on sugar sometimes.
I mean,
but he's the one who actually has a scientific, disability in handling that stuff.
Hey, I identify as a normal person sometimes.
Well, that's helpful when you're dying, in the ambulance on the way to the hospital after a fun night of rabble-rousing downtown. One time. Okay? Jeez. Did I use rabble-rousing correctly there?
I feel like even if you didn't, the only people who will know are people in a nursing home, so.
Okay. I get points, though, for trying, right?
I think you used it right, actually. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, if I did use it correctly, please let me know. You can comment on the show notes page at thebestwaytoexplainit.com/2 and let me know if I used the term rabble-rousing, and also if I didn't, give me alternate definitions that I could use perhaps in a later podcast.
Either literal definitions that you found in Webster's dictionary, or make up your own definition of rabble-rousing. Please keep it clean. Trying to run a family podcast here.
Yeah, seriously,
Jeez.
You guys.
Wow,
oh my
that
goodness.
One? Really?
Can
see.
Yeah. Can you imagine if
the funny part is that this is pre-recorded and I'm not even looking at one, and I definitely know that there's someone that's going to insult us. So more than likely, my girlfriend.
Say, does it rhyme with Facey?
We'll leave that up to the listeners.
And when I said it, I didn't mean that she's not a woman. She is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Way to insult her. Jeez.
I deeply apologize. Wow. And if you're listening to this, if she ever decides to listen to this thing,
yeah, she
I
already turned it off, guaranteed.
By this point, I imagine most of our audience is off.
We still got that first listen, though, so we appreciate it.
But for those, we get the download. That's all that matters. Okay, but for those loyal followers that have come to get something explained at them, or to them, I guess, is probably the more correct term. So, Breckan, I called you a diabetic earlier, and so today I thought it might be a good idea to have you tell the faithful audience and myself, not exactly what a diabetic is, because we really don't care, but what what is the chemical that your body lacks, and why are you so messed up?
Well, since you talked about it, I do have low testosterone. No, just kidding. Just kidding. For those of you who do, it is a normal thing, so I'm not insulting you. My cousin who throws heavy weights for a living actually has lower testosterone than his sister. So, yeah. No, for real.
Oh,
for real.
At this point, I did not anticipate us talking about testosterone. That was not where I envisioned this podcast
I just felt like I had to misdirect people since, maybe some of them knew that we were going to be talking about insulin.
Oh, that's what we're talking about. Breckan,
weird.
What is insulin?
Well, it's a really interesting word now that I look at how it's spelled.
Is it one of those times that you look at a word or you say it enough times, it just doesn't even sound like a word anymore? Or doesn't look like a word? It really
is one of those times. Like, it looks like someone translated Arabic, and I'm just looking at it, and it's like insulin. Anyway.
Isn't Arabic have symbols and stuff?
It's all that really pretty cursive with dots and stuff, and I'm really not sure how to read it. That's... Yeah. Why are you asking me that? I didn't research that.
I don't know. We need a linguist on here to tell us about Arabic.
This is not the best way to explain Arabic. This is the best way to explain insulin, man.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to let you get started, and so I can kind of just take it easy this episode and let you do the heavy lifting. So
thank God you're going to shut up. So to introduce insulin, I'm sure some of you, if not all of you, are asking, what is insulin? So it's a hormone produced in the body. It's tasked with regulating blood sugar levels, and it's produced in the pancreas by cells called beta cells. So these beta cells, they're located in the islets of Langerhans, and that sounds super Lord of the Rings. Second Lord of the Rings reference I've made on this podcast. 2 episodes, 2 LOTR references.
Wait, when did you make the Lord of the Rings in the first one?
When you were talking about XOR and XNOR and stuff like that.
Oh, no. Wow, I did not remember that. Man. I seriously didn't.
Use that memory of yours. Anyway, so the islets of Langerhans and the beta cells actually constitute the majority of the islets of Langerhans. Thank goodness that's the last time I have to use that phrase. These beta cells are super important in our discussion of insulin and how it relates to diabetes later on. But insulin is often described as the key to unlocking cells and depositing sugar/energy, and we'll also discuss that a little bit later on. It transfers sugar from the blood to the cells requiring energy, or stores the excess as fat. So after learning what insulin is, you probably want to know the process of insulin getting sugar to your cells. So first...
No, actually, I wanted to know something completely different, but no, you're not asking me.
What would you like to know, Scott?
I don't know. I guess the process.
Oh, fine. You want to know the process of insulin getting sugar to your cells?
Process of insulin.
Okay,
please.
All right. Option 1 it is. So first you eat food. Let's call it a hot dog. And it raises your blood sugar because you ate that hot dog on a bun, I'm guessing. And then that bun absorbs, because it's a carbohydrate, into sugar within your bloodstream. And your body reacts by signaling the beta cells to release insulin into your bloodstream. It takes, for a non-diabetic like Scott, who eats all of the sugar he can find, tasty. It takes about 5 minutes for your pancreas to recognize that your body has ingested sugar, and then it will distribute insulin as it sees fit to distribute that within your body. The sugar, that is. And then after the insulin is released, it attaches to cells and signals for those cells to intake sugar. Your body will naturally distribute the sugar to the cells that need it most. So let's say you just ran a marathon. Your body will signal the cells, even though a marathon will most likely activate just about every muscle in your body. Let's just call it your legs. Your body will say, hey, we need the sugar in the legs to bring energy back. So the insulin will go directly to your leg muscles and open those cells up. The sugar will pour in, and then your muscles will get the energy that they need or replenish the energy that they expend while you were running extraordinarily long distances. Yeah. So after distributing the sugar to the necessary cells, the insulin will begin storing sugar in the liver and fatty areas. So if you have a belly like me, insulin probably played a key role, if not the beer.
It's probably the beer with you, because like your insulin's all messed up, right?
Or I'm just getting better at taking care of my diabetes, and then the insulin decided to, I get it.
No, it's probably the beer.
Yeah, we'll go with that. I like that.
Good chance that's the case.
So if you didn't think this logically through, as your blood sugar levels rise, your pancreas produces and releases more insulin. People with type 2 diabetes, sometimes you've ingested so much sugar throughout your life and you have so much fat in your body from it storing that your pancreas just can't produce enough of that insulin, or your body's become so used to like producing insulin that it just gets tired and doesn't do it. But we'll talk about that, well, right now. And
so it's like the body's just like, no, I'm done. This dude's ridiculous. I cannot do this anymore.
You ate so much Halloween candy that your body was literally telling you, hey man,
please no more.
I don't want sugar.
Please no more.
So as we stated, diabetes and insulin are integral. When you discuss insulin, a lot of the times it's because someone in the group is diabetic. And the reason I'm doing this is basically so I can point people to this podcast episode instead of having to...
At thebestwaytoexplainit.com/2.
Look at you.
Hey, just making sure it's easy.
It helps.
Serving the people.
It helps. Like, I have to explain this all the time. I had to do it right when I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So I think it would play a crucial role in understanding insulin if I explained what type 1 and type 2 diabetes were, even though I already gave you a type 2 explanation. Type 1 is a genetic disorder in which the beta cells in the pancreas are attacked by the person's body. So what happened with me, and what I've formulated this as well as been talking to doctors ever since I was diagnosed, you go through a stressful event, or your body gets very sick and decides to attack itself, but instead of just attacking the entire immune system, your body focuses on the beta cells within the islets of Langerhans, and then kills most of them off. Now, those beta cells do recover, but once you've killed them all off, it's very easy for your body to just maintain the whole slaughter of beta cells. And then
so you can't just go like all Night King on them and just raise them all from the dead.
You really can't. I was almost in a study that was going to try and, with your Game of Thrones reference, Night King the beta cells. Basically, it would attack the immune system with immunosuppressants, and then hopefully your beta cells would recover and your immune system would auto-adjust to not attack your beta cells. I don't think it went anywhere. Otherwise, we would be talking about a cure for type 1 diabetes right now. And they are working on one. But to avoid the rabbit hole any further,
Well, no, I actually do have a few questions. First of all, when were you diagnosed? Like, how old were you?
13. I was in freshman year of high school, just started playing football. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And so, okay, you were 13. So when was this study? Like, when were you able to do it? Pretty quickly after?
The spring semester of my freshman year was when I went to the doctor and I told my parents I didn't want to do it. Yeah.
Gotcha. So this study, so you suppress your immune system a bunch so your beta cells have time to kind of rally and, get back to normal. So I guess with your condition, is your body constantly attacking those beta cells, or does it kind of do it once and they just never quite recover, or is it like a constant process?
I'm pretty sure it's a constant process. Like, my body is still trying to develop those cells, but it could be, and that's something that I do need to research a little bit more, is the way that the body attacks the beta cells, whether or not it lets them regenerate and then attacks them again and then lets them regenerate.
Right.
But my main thought and what I've been told by doctors is, like, there's not a good chance of a good recovery. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious.
And that's also like deep medical research. Like, I would have to go Google Scholar on that and read a bunch of medical papers, which,
like, pay money.
Well, it's worth it to bring you guys the best information. It's worth it.
To a point.
Very, very true.
So, like, if there was a scholarly article that was like $10 and I just needed it in order to provide you all with the best value, I'd do it. But if it was 15, I'd probably just make it up. To be honest.
I would read the abstract and then make up my own facts and statistics.
Yeah, I'd just get enough information to cite it and then kind of make up what I thought they should say.
Yeah. So we've talked about type 1. I talked a little bit about type 2. Type 2 can still be genetic, just like the ability to gain fat is genetic. It also has to do with, like, your diet and everything. You see larger people as type 2 diabetics a lot of the time, or older people. Type 2 basically explains, or is the explanation for old people whose bodies have given up accepting insulin into the cells. So their blood sugars are a little bit higher, but they are still producing insulin at a normal rate. First, they'll take oral medication, or they'll go through diet and exercise steps to handle and reverse type 2 diabetes. But sometimes they'll have to go and take, like, shots, like a type 1 has to do. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So with insulin treating diabetes, which is the type of diabetes that I have, you have about...
As opposed to non-insulin treated diabetes.
So type 2.
Where you treat it differently.
With diet and exercise.
Okay.
Yeah. Mine, there's no hope. I'm screwed.
Gotcha.
It seems a little dark, but I have a really good humor about it. Some people aren't as good about it as I am.
You're actually, like, dying on the inside.
Well, that...
Just use this dark humor to deflect.
That used to be a joke of mine, actually, that I was dying inside, because my pancreas literally was dying inside.
Well, anyways.
To get off that depressing note, we have 4 types of insulin. Really, people who have type 1 will only use 2 types, and we'll refer to those as long-acting and short-acting insulin. But to describe them all, you have rapid-acting insulin, you have short-acting insulin, you have intermediate, and then long-acting insulin. So rapid-acting, after injection, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to start working. Peak effect happens in about an hour, with full length of effect lasting between 2 and 4 hours. So that's a really quick shot of insulin. That's like your blood sugar is off the charts. For those of you who don't know, normal blood sugar runs from about 90 to 120 milligrams per deciliter. Yeah.
I did not know that.
So if you're within that range, you're a normal person. Sometimes when I wake up in the morning, I'll be like 220. When I was first diagnosed, I was about 500. So, you know,
you got to pump those numbers up.
Those are rookie numbers. That's a terrible reference. So if your blood sugar was at like 500, 600 milligrams per deciliter, you might want to take some rapid acting insulin to get that down, because that's going to damage a lot of your internal organs. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But typically, if you're gonna
consult with a doctor before taking
please do not come and sue us for taking insulin.
If you have 500 to 600 blood sugar, probably should
please talk to a doctor if you're not a type 1 diabetic. If you are a type 1 diabetic, quit eating the candy. Put down the Skittles, Karen.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Karen.
Oh my goodness.
Moving on to the short-acting insulin. It starts working.
Think about it. If there was a Karen listening to this podcast, we just saved her diet for her today. We did a good deed. Or we
definitely insulted Karen, who's already a great...
and now she's stuffing her face with more carbs and sugars.
Wow.
Karen, you can do it.
We believe in you, Karen.
Resist. But you're fine. To move on, you're a great person.
The short-acting insulin, it starts working 30 minutes after injection. It peaks at 2 to 3 hours post-injection and continues effect for about 3 to 6 hours. That's what I take for my meal injections. Like if I eat Jimmy John's per se, I know how many carbohydrates are in a Jimmy John's sandwich and a bag of jalapeno chips. Shouts out to Jimmy John's.
Number 9,
you know
Italian
it.
Nightclub.
No tomato, no onion. Add hot peppers.
Get out of here. Tomato and onion.
Fake news. I know how much to take for that. We call them units, and a unit, I'm not sure what it actually describes. It's a unit of insulin. You take a certain amount of units for each carbohydrate. We call that a sliding scale. And the sliding scale, it, like I just said, it corresponds to a certain number of carbs. Mine is...
So there's a ratio of carbs to insulin units that you need to
my
take.
insulin to carb ratio is 1 unit to 5 grams of carbohydrates. I have a fairly insulin-resistant body, so that may sound very high to any type 1s listening out there that are going to comment like, represent. That are going to comment like, dude, you must weigh 300 pounds. No, I weigh 305 pounds. No, just kidding.
Gosh.
Just kidding. So you take your short acting at meal times, and then there's an insulin in between. It's called intermediate acting insulin. This really, I don't know if it's used for anything. Maybe it's used within insulin pumps, and that's a different topic altogether. I'm not very familiar with insulin pumps, so I'm not going to talk too much about them. Basically, they're like a fake pancreas that you stick onto your body. It injects it with insulin continuously, and then you ramp up that insulin for mealtime and then back it back down to a regular, I think they call it a bolus, which is like your constant feed of insulin throughout the day. Intermediate acting insulin, it starts acting 2 to 4 hours after injection. It peaks at 4 to 12 hours, and then it can last for 12 to 18. So we're getting within a day's time that this stuff keeps working in your body. It's usually taken twice a day, according to my sources, which will be found at the show notes on thebestwaytoexplainit.com/2. And finally, we get to the...
Oh, shoot. We have to, like, give sources for this stuff?
will. you can be a terrible source cider.
I'm really hoping people just kind of take me at my word.
Well, they don't. Yeah. I have been on the internet for more than a day.
What, you can believe anything anybody tells you?
Well, as long as it's a funny picture, it's true.
True. I'll put my sources in memes.
There you go.
And they will be found at the show notes page.
All right, so finally we're going to get to the long-acting insulin. It starts working several hours after injection and works for approximately 24 hours. So if you want to back up to the intermediate, 2 to 4 hours, well, long-acting insulin might start acting at 3, peak at like 8 to 12, and then it continues throughout 24 hours. And this is what I take. I just went to the doctor yesterday, actually, and I'm going to start taking it twice a day, but I used to take it once a day in the morning mostly, and it would last until the next morning when I would take it. This is used...
So,
go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go for it. Oh, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that this is also used in conjunction with rapid or short-acting insulin to counteract your mealtime highs, because most likely you're going to eat a carbohydrate at every meal. Not necessarily for everybody, but just kind of a usual thing that people do.
Yeah. Just keep you level. So, okay, you talk about this insulin peaking. So is this peak, is it more of a pyramid or is it a plateau and then it starts to go down? So is this peak extended, or is it pretty much like you peak and then it just starts
it's kind of like an upside down parabola for those of you who are mathematically inclined. It works its way up, it levels off, and then it comes back down, but it's not a plateau where it continues to act aggressively, we'll call it, for multiple hours. It peaks and then it slowly tapers off back to...
So out of all of the possible descriptions you used, you chose an upside down parabola to make things clear. I'm just making sure that's... You thought, that's going to get the point across.
So a bell curve, man.
Like the top of a circle?
There you go. Sure. We'll go with that. You know, the people listening are a lot smarter than you give them credit, Scott.
Yeah, I guess so.
Jeez.
I had no idea what a parabola was.
Really?
I'm a computer science guy.
Didn't you have to take calculus?
Yeah, but like 3 years ago.
I no longer trust any computer you work on.
I don't have to know parabolas to learn computers.
It's true, but parabolas are really cool.
I press the buttons in front of me and cool stuff happens.
Okay, enough about parabolas and your misunderstanding of them.
Thank you.
We'll work our way back to a calculus 2 level of thinking. Only kidding. And as I've described, my regimen of insulin includes the long-acting insulin and then smaller doses of short-acting insulin. This has been tradition for a while. Pumps are taking over the whole diabetes world. The technology for those is progressing. I just haven't ever done them because I've been very active or had a weird schedule throughout college, and having a weird schedule is not good for pumps.
The way you said, like, it's taking over the diabetes world, like, all the articles in Diabetes Today were on pumps.
There's a
pumps.
huge diabetes world out there, man. I think there's something like 3 million diabetics, type 1 diabetics in the U.S. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, not nice, but...
Do you guys worship at the Church of Diabetes?
Wilford Brimley. He is good man. He no help hit curveball.
Okay. I'm sorry. That's just the way you said that was funny.
We're getting so far off topic, man. So another interesting thing brought up in discussions about insulin is the health effects of insulin spikes. Scott and I want to say it was about a month or a month and a half ago, kind of got into it with a guy in a Facebook group. over
insulin
I remember and dietary control. So this guy was going on about how insulin spikes are very unhealthy for you. They cause all sorts of bad things, and you hear it a lot if you research dieting, because there is some truth to it, but it's not 100% like insulin that's killing you. It's
basically wasn't what he was saying is that calories aren't what cause fat gain, it's insulin spikes. Like you can eat, below your maintenance calories and you won't lose weight because your insulin spiked. Isn't that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of. That's what I got from it too. There was
more
had a lot
said,
of stuff going on, but basically what you'll hear is that insulin spikes are the reason that you're fat, or I'm fat. And that's not necessarily true. The dark side comes from the insulin storing fat. So eating sugar and spiking your insulin is not necessarily a bad thing. If you're eating a cup of sugar a day, you might want to back it off a little bit, though. We described that insulin as the key to unlocking the cells, right? So when you eat sugar, it's unlocking those cells. Well, think about just an ordinary lock that you use every day. Eventually it wears out, right? Well, the insulin being the key, unlocking that cell and then allowing sugar to go in, is causing those cells to decay, and so they might be open longer, just like a lock might be harder to close if you're not keeping it, if you're not maintaining it,
rusty,
So you're unlocking and unlocking these, or locking and unlocking these cells each day that you eat a lot of sugar. So when you're eating a high carbohydrate diet, that's going to cause your cells to get worn out and you'll store more fat. So this guy wasn't necessarily wrong in saying that insulin spikes are the key, but really it's a high carbohydrate diet. And we can get into dieting in another episode. There are tons of fad diets and everything that I'm sure we could talk about how they work or if they don't work and everything. Ooh. Yeah, we could do a whole series on them. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. So hit us up in the show notes at thebestwaytoexplainit.com/2. And let us know what kind of diets you want us to research for you if you don't have the time to Google and click on the first 3 links.
Actually, I don't think I told you about this. We actually have at our website, thebestwaytoexplainit.com/suggestion, I think is what it is, or suggestions, something like that. There's a form there you can fill out. It's like super easy, like 4 different things you have to fill out, like your name, email, topic, and then like tell us why you want us to look at the topic. And you can just submit your topic suggestions there, and we will talk amongst ourselves and in our boardroom meetings and decide if that's going to be a topic we're going to feature on the show. And if you do that, we will give you a shout out on the show that this was suggested by this listener. And so if you like us saying your names like Karen did, then suggest the topic.
Sorry for calling you out, Karen, but put down the Skittles.
That was a free shout out. Check out Karen's website. I don't know what it is, but
check it out.
It's probably great.
Just Google Karen and click on the first thing.
Yeah,
Karen is Plankton's wife on SpongeBob to, go down a further rabbit hole.
Oh, no, actually, I didn't know that because, I had this thing called a life growing up and didn't watch shows like that.
I had a life too. It was called come home and watch cartoons all day, just like every other purebred American.
Okay. Well, at least you weren't a weeb like me and watched Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon when you got home.
Well, I had a Pokemon cake when I was about 3 years old, and then when I realized what Pokemon was, I was kind of like, I want to be cool. And then I watched more Pokemon.
Then you got Pokemon Go, and you played it for those 2 weeks just the same as I did.
I never got Pokemon Go, mostly because it was way too much exercise. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You'd have to...
So,
inject your insulin or something.
Yeah, I was too busy calculating insulin injections. So I've talked about the key to unlocking the cells and why that's bad for you, but it also plays a crucial role in allowing amino acids. And, for bodybuilders and all those bodybuilders listening to podcasts out there, shouts out to you guys lifting weights, getting ripped. Yeah, Scott doesn't know what that's like. But it helps amino acids and creatine to enter the muscles. So insulin causes the biochemical reactions in the muscle to increase protein synthesis, and it decreases muscle breakdown. So if I were to work out and then not eat anything and not take an insulin injection, it would be worse than eating stuff and taking an insulin injection. Another benefit of insulin is that it aids in muscle development by causing blood vessels to relax and dilate. It increases the blood flow, and insulin helps provide more nutrients to the muscles. My marathon description earlier, that would help you get all the water and electrolytes and everything back into your muscles after depleting them by running way too far. Yeah.
Okay.
So the dark side of insulin, it sends the signal to the body that it's just been fed, and that it needs to stop burning the stored fat within the body and then burn new nutrients instead. An increase in the uptake of these nutrients, especially sugar, leads to the storage of fat, as I've said before. You can see how the increase in the release of insulin in the bloodstream can cause a larger store of fat over time. So you continually don't send the nutrients with your constant working out or running marathons or, walking on the treadmill at Planet Fitness. And you just sit there and play Madden all day, then you increase that storage of fat because your insulin's still going to get released no matter whether you're working out or being lazy. Another and even scarier result of insulin is when the body either overcorrects for too much of a spike in blood sugar, or a diabetic takes too large of a shot for their consumption of carbs, and then that leads to hypoglycemia. So root word kind of glycemia, that means like sugar, blood sugar, and then hypo meaning lack of, so low blood sugar. That's the real dangerous thing. Anyone that's watched Paul Blart Mall Cop, that really disgusting scene in the bathroom where he's passing out because of low blood sugar, and he finds like half-eaten lollipop in the trash and he has to eat it. It's not very accurate for diabetes, but it gets the point across. Like, that's how desperate you feel when your blood sugar is low. And normal people feel this. Sometimes I would feel it before I was diabetic at like 3 p.m. when you get really tired. That could be low blood sugar from... Go ahead, Scott.
Oh, well, you, that one time we went to coffee, then you got those, caramels or whatever, because you were like, my blood sugar's low or whatever, and so I think that's a slightly less gross example than that Paul Blart. Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Yeah. So, and sometimes it's the feeling that caffeine hits you. If caffeine has ever hit you really hard and you feel kind of shaky and you can't quite concentrate.
Oh my gosh, all the time. That time we did the caffeine crawl.
Yeah. That's Holy what low blood sugar feels like, but it feels a lot more urgent because you're a diabetic and you know what it feels like.
And not like you just need to run for 8 miles.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So you feel very scared, but also if your blood sugar gets low enough, your body just shuts down and you pass out. You might start having seizures. Like, it's a really scary experience. So whenever my blood sugar starts feeling low, I just go for the nearest candy, and it's awesome. Like, I can just feast, and I have a green light to feast until I'm done feasting. And my doctor hates it because the next time I test, I'm like 300 on my blood sugar. So, yeah. But there's 2 types of carbs that your body can ingest It's all within a glycemic index. Again, glycemia is like the sugar content. And you have low glycemic index carbs, which are slow digesting carbs through your body, a lot like broccoli and salads. Dietary fiber is a very slow digesting and low glycemic carb, whereas high glycemic carbs, much like sugar, just pure sugar, a lot of fruits are actually high glycemic, but they're healthy high glycemic. Or a donut is a high glycemic carb because it just turns straight into sugar, hits your bloodstream as fast as it can, and it gets absorbed by your body very quickly. So if you go on a Sunday morning and eat a donut and you don't work out right away, you are basically storing fat. And that's why donuts and fat are very correlated, along with the fact that donuts are just fried dough. And yeah,
delicious.
not gonna disagree there. Most diets say to avoid the high glycemic carbs because they trigger the large insulin reactions, like I was just saying. Like a donut is very high glycemic, and it's about 30 grams of carbohydrates, which to a diabetic, like for me, that's a 6-unit shot. So I try to stay away from them. I don't always stay away from them, but the high glycemic carbs are what get you.
I just thought of. Did you ever watch Arrested
Development?
Development?
I don't. I was talking about that with someone else. Oh my gosh! Though. Yeah,
it's so. I just thought of. So there's this narrator that does the narrating. There's this narrator that narrates over the show.
How does that work?
Yes, obviously, but so basically, a lot of times what will happen is one of the main characters will be like, and tomorrow I'm going, she's totally going to say yes to go to the dance with me, just as an example. And then the narrator would just be like,
she did not.
No. So like when I thought about that, you're like, yeah, I try and stay away from those donuts, and then insert the narrator.
He did not.
He did not.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very hard for me to stay away from delicious donuts, especially when you have things like maple bacon donuts. Yeah. Oh. And there's a place place in town that makes them, and they are my weakness. If my voice is getting to anybody and they just want to send me a thank you note, send me a gift card to Paradise Donuts in Grand Island, Nebraska, and I will love you. Send two. There you go. Although there's a definite correlation between insulin spikes and detrimental health effects, there is an explanation as to why insulin is credited with causing the detrimental effects, and that's because it stores fat. If you eat a high fat diet but you don't eat very many carbs, then your body's going to just flush away that fat and not store it like it does with insulin or with sugar.
Well, unless you're eating over your maintenance levels.
And that's where calories come in, and then your body stores additional calories because of evolutionary concepts within humans. Yeah.
Right.
The connection comes from the idea that insulin wears down the body cells. Like I said before, it wears the cells down, and then if you're not taking care of your body correctly and you have high blood sugar, effects include nerve damage, kidney damage, and eye problems. Kidney damage is
and if you or a loved one has been diagnosed with one of these,
so
you may be entitled to financial compensation.
Well, not really, because they handle it pretty well. You goof.
I have mesothelioma.
It's getting late.
I've got all of the, the diabetes, the mesothelioma.
That's terrible. So the nerve damage, like you'll see something about diabetic nerve damage on TV. It's on a lot of sports channels and stuff throughout the day. I know that for sure because that's the only live TV I watch anymore. And they'll talk about diabetic nerve damage in your foot a lot. And that's like sharp pins and needles. Yep. Basically, those nerves are dying because they're not getting the right nutrients and everything. And the sugar is blocking those channels for nutrients to get into. So those nerves will die off at your extremities, and the extreme is you have to amputate your foot and everything, or kidney damage that you have to go to a hospital for dialysis, and then eye problems, you can go blind. So I have a fun life ahead of me.
Very much so. Because you did talk about the like diabetics losing limbs and stuff like that. Yeah. So, that's one of the more visible signs of the detrimental effects
and how
diabetes.
It affects your body without you even knowing. Because I could tell you that I'm fine right now, like I feel fine, but my blood sugar could be doing some massive damage within.
But inside, you're dying.
I'll say I'm fine, but then the narrator will be like, "No, his kidneys are
he was not
dying inside." Yeah.
He was not.
It seems really dark, but there's so many type 1 diabetics. My grandpa was a type 1 diabetic for so many years, way before my mom was born, and he lived until, I believe, 82. So, yeah, he lived longer than he was expected to, for sure.
I guess I don't know when your grandpa was born, but
let's just say he fought in the Korean War, I believe. Or
that means very little to me. I have no idea when the Korean War. Well, I have a vague idea of when the Korean War was, but it's not the date itself is not in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the best way to explain
that's insulin, man. Hey. All right. Well, sweet, man. That was really good. I learned actually quite a bit that I did not know. Actually, when I paid attention, I learned a lot.
It's tough to.
So, yeah, sometimes your voice is just so soothing it puts me to sleep.
I've been working on that for so long.
All right. Well, I guess do you have anything else you want to talk about in terms of insulin?
Not a whole lot. Just want to say look us up on thebestwaytoexplainit.com /2, I believe. We'll give you the show notes
that's
for
this episode.
Just the bestwaytoexplainit.com to get to our main site, which
Yep. Yeah, and remember, if you want to suggest a topic, thebestwaytoexplainit.com /suggestions or suggestion, one of the two. Just two tries. Try one with the S, one with that one. And if
I'm trying to remember, is our website thebestwaytoexplainit.com? Have we said that enough? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it is.
Impressive.
All right. Sounds good. See you next time.
Learning.